Hi, I'm Tatiana the doula, and I'm here to read the LCT notes from Section 2B. So let's get right into it. This section is about the women's ways of knowing part of the course, and I just highlighted that because that's what a portion of these notes are. Conversing using relationship theories. Mary Belenke and colleagues asked, how do women know? Their work helps us understand how women learn and gives us insight into how to teach. They found that women fell into five main categories of characteristic ways to know. The possibilities of these are in each woman. How women know did not seem to be related to age, IQ, social or ethnic group, or race. Being in relationships, such as breastfeeding counseling, is how women move from one perspective to another. Silence, a position of not knowing in which the person feels voiceless, powerless, and mindless, afraid of words, see themselves as relatively powerless and dependent on others for survival, do not trust their ability to understand or remember, have little awareness of their intellectual capabilities, live at the behest of those around them. To develop a relationship with women in silence, use few words, use familiar words, not areola or alveoli, or anything from this course. Any of those medical terms, you're not using these with the women of silence. Short, easy, and comfortable. Nothing to remember. You may need to be an advocate. Receivers of knowledge believe that all authorities tell the truth. Like to learn the right answer and repeat it to the teacher. Cannot tolerate ambiguity. Submit to the command of authority, not inner voice. Sense of self is embedded in external definitions and roles. Live at the behest of those around them. Believe that authorities tell the truth. Like to learn the right answer and repeat it to the teacher. Oh, that's repetitive. To develop a relationship with receivers of knowledge, teacher or counselor. To develop a relationship with receivers of knowledge, teacher or counselor must project authority, never be ambiguous. Advantages must be concrete and appropriate for her. Teaching should center on the right way and include return demo. Subjective knowing. Believes knowing is personal, private, and based on intuition and or feeling states, rather than on thought and articulated ideas that are defended with evidence. Subjective knowers, sense of self is embedded in external definitions and roles. Sense of authority arises primarily from the power of a group. Trust their own intuition. Inner voice helps guide them. Distrust male authority figures. Experts don't know what they are talking about. Oh, this has it in quotes. Experts don't know what they are talking about. Trust other women with similar experiences. Find female support groups helpful. Attracted to natural things like breastfeeding. Want to be helped by someone who has breastfed. Interested in breastfeeding from her own point of view. To develop a relationship with subjective knowers. I'm gonna highlight this. The way that they made these notes is not. To develop a relationship with subjective knowers, create time for them to talk about themselves and what they think about breastfeeding. Otherwise, they can take over classes or group sessions. Offer help with possible misconceptions about breastfeeding. Offer to make contacts and referrals. Procedural knowing. The position at which techniques and procedures for acquiring, validating, and evaluating knowledge claims are developed and honored. Invested in learning, constantly taking in new information, interested in obtaining and applying knowledge, want to understand other people's points of view, assume that everyone, including themselves, can be wrong, will read a variety of books with different points of view, may attend several classes and change healthcare providers easily, may be viewed as inconsistent by others, may want very technical information about breastfeeding. To develop a relationship with procedural knowers, be prepared to back up statements with evidence, be knowledgeable about multiple sources of reference, limit personal stories, understand that options and change are a part of the process. Constructed knowing. The position at which truth is understood to be contextual, knowledge is tentative, and it is understood that the power that the knower is part of constructs the known. Have abandoned either or thinking, have learned to live with conflict, and have a high tolerance for internal contradiction and ambiguity. Believe all knowledge is constructed and the knower is an intimate part of the known. Want to avoid compartmentalizing thought and feeling, home and work, self and other. Want to embrace all the pieces of the self in some ultimate sense of the whole, mother, daughter, wife, thinker, artist. Aspire to work that contributes to the empowerment and improvement in the quality of life of others. Believe that ideas and values must be nurtured. Have a unique and authentic voice. The position of constructed knowledge involves enormous empathetic potential, the capacity to feel connected with another person despite potentially enormous differences. Many women in this position, nonetheless, experience loneliness and discouragement, largely due to difficulty in finding companionable and supportive partners. Hierarchy of infant feeding choices for the term baby. 1. Baby at mother's breast. 2. Mother's own expressed milk. Pumps. Pumping, along with the lack of breast-mouth contact independently, influences the milk microbiota. Should be appropriate for mother's intended usage. Must be used according to the manufacturer's instructions. Get training from the rep. See cleaning guidelines on the CDC website. If multi-user, must be used with the kits specified by the manufacturer unless the manufacturer says so. If not, manufacturer's liability insurance may be invalidated. 2/3 of breast pump users reported problems with their breast pump, and 15% reported an injury that was attributed to the pump. Care providers and consumers can report damage or injury from pumps to the FDA. There is no one pump that is right for every situation. In a study of hospital distribution of breast pumps, getting a pump was associated with decreased odds of any breastfeeding around 10 weeks. Distribution of free breast pumps to predominantly African American WIC eligible mothers was not associated with increased rates of exclusive breastfeeding at 1.5 to 3.5 months postpartum. That's interesting. 15 out of 25 studies in a Cochrane review acknowledge being funded by pump companies. Lower cost pumps and hand expression may be as effective or more effective than large electric pumps for some outcomes. The common intention to use a breast pump early after delivery without an identified breastfeeding problem indicates a need for increased lactation support to reduce concerns about having an insufficient milk supply. No one flange shape is going to be best for all women. Some flanges may be too small. Milk expression by hand. Hand expression is the cleanest way to collect milk. Simple process. Hand washing plus a clean container are all that is needed. Milk storage and handling. Human milk storage information for home use for full-term infants. ABM Protocol number 8. Milk is a raw food and should be handled with care. Heat little or not at all to preserve immune properties and nutrients. Hierarchy of infant feeding choices for the term baby. 1. Baby at mother's breast. 2. Mother's own expressed milk. 3. Milk from HMBANA or state licensed milk bank. Banked donor milk is preventive, reduces long-term morbidity. It reduces mortality, matter of life and death for some infants. It decreases NEC, cost-effective in many cases, safe. Safety guaranteed by donor screening, by history, by serology, bacteriology on milk, heat treatment, pasteurization. Heat treatment does not destroy all beneficial components. Milk from an Hambana milk bank retains an average of 90% of active properties, but donor milk can be personalized with the addition of a small amount of mother's own milk. Donor milk banking is not the same as informal sharing. Informal milk sharing cannot be condoned by the U.S. As donors need screening, we discourage the use of any milk from an anonymous donor, ABM. U.S. and Canadian health authorities have raised concern. U.S., the FDA, Health Canada. Wet nursing or cross nursing, except where culturally appropriate. Borrowing or buying milk not from a Hambana member or licensed milk bank, from a friend or over the internet, for example. Human milk purchased via the internet exhibited high overall bacterial growth and frequent contamination with pathogenic bacteria. Human milk purchased via the internet contained caffeine and cotinine in almost every sample. Many contained cow's milk or formula. Donors to peer-to-peer systems knew they would not qualify for milk bank. Wow. All donors may be criminally liable if they know they are ineligible as milk bank donors and sell or distribute their milk anyway. Hierarchy of infant feeding choices for the term baby. 1. Baby at mother's breast. 2. Mother's own expressed milk. 3. Milk from Hambana or state licensed milk bank. 4. Cow milk formula. 5. Soy formula. Safer use of infant formula. A majority of U.S. babies receive infant formula in the first 6 months of life, from CDC 2019. When we start thinking about the wide use of formula, we could ask, what are the issues in our society that make this happen? Inadequate and unpaid maternity leave, unequal pay, maternal mortality and morbidity, lack of universal counseling for breastfeeding, healthcare inequities. Formula is frequently recalled. Formula can be contaminated in the collection or manufacturing process and or in the home. Powdered formula is particularly susceptible to contamination. Clostridia has been isolated from U.S. manufactured PIF. Spores were also found in 7 out of 9, 78% market purchase PIF samples. The United Nations and the WHO first raised concerns about contamination of powdered infant formula with Chronobacter, Enterobacter, Sakazaki, and other microorganisms in 2004. Recommend that caregivers, particularly for infants at high risk, should be regularly alerted that powdered infant formula is not a sterile product. Other routes for contamination: water used to dilute formula, additives such as melamine, bottles, improper cleaning, bisphenol A, BPA, and other chemicals of concern in plastic bottles, bottle nipples, teats. The FDA has found that 77% of formula feeding mothers do not receive instruction on formula prep, and 73% did not receive storage instruction from a health professional. I asked a mom about this, and she confirmed with me that she never got any instruction on how to prep formula, which is in the communities that I serve, there are high rates of mothers that use formula immediately. So that's really concerning that they're not being taught how to prep the formula. No consistent pattern of maternal characteristics, age, education, income, etc. was associated with unsafe practices. Recommendations for preparing powdered infant formula, PIF. WHO 2007 and CDC 2016. Mix powdered infant formula with water heated to a temperature of at least 70 degrees Celsius, 158 degrees Fahrenheit to kill Enterobacter Sakazaki. Formula made with hot water needs to be cooled quickly to body temperature if it is being fed to baby immediately. If the formula is not being fed immediately, refrigerate it right away and keep refrigerated until feeding. World Health Organization. I'm going to pause here. A lot of moms in this community, in the communities that I serve, they are taking formula on the go. They're taking the powdered formula on the go, pre-mixing it with cold water. They'll take a cup of bottled water and they'll take the formula and then mix it and then heat it up. Actually, that's the wrong way because powdered formula is not sterile. The water needs to be piping hot and then they mix it. So that's the first thing. If you are having moms that are using formula, instruct them that no matter where they are, go someplace and where there's hot water and use the hot water to mix. You cannot grab a bottle of water, of bottled water, and mix it with the formula. That's dangerous. It has to be piping hot water. So go to a deli, grab that a cup of hot water, then mix it with the formula, and then save it for later. Put it in a cooler, or if they're at home, mix it with hot water and then mix it up and then refrigerate it for later. But not with regular lukewarm or water that's not been heated. Formula stretching can have negative consequences for the infants, both immediate and long term. This is another big issue. So the problem with WIC is that WIC does not give enough formula to last a whole month. And so we'll see that mothers will be stretching the formula. They'll be thinning it out or adding more water to the formula to make it last, or add cereal to make it last. And that is not the way. Unfortunately, the formulas that is WIC provided by WIC, on the market rate for those formulas is very expensive. They take out a huge chunk of a family's income. And so if they are using that formula and then, they run out, and then they've got to go and use all of their income towards the formula, that's what presents a real issue. So what I like to tell families is that the formula, the basic formula, talk with your doctor, but the basic formula has to have a certain standard. And so using Target brand and Walmart brand, it's not less sophisticated than these fancy brands that WIC gives. It's great that WIC can give that formula, but it's a problem when it's not enough formula to last a whole month, and then the family has to dig into what resources they have. They may not have any resources. They have to dig in to pay for this expensive formula that's not necessary, or they start cutting the formula and giving the baby less nutrients, which can be really dangerous and even fatal. Reflux may be associated with cow's milk allergy in infants less than 1 year of age. Colic. A review of the literature of management of infantile colic concludes that it is an easily identified childhood problem that has no clearly identified treatment guidelines. It's a lot of notes. A new microbiota framework for colic. Colicky babies had more than double the abundance of proteobacteria such as Escherichia, Salmonella, Vibrio, Helicobacter Yersinia, whereas bifidobacteria and lactobacilli were increased in control infants. Anaphylaxis is also possible. Anaphylaxis related to cow's milk or cow's milk based formula is a rare but important event. Feeding with soy formula should not be recommended for the prevention of allergy or food intolerance in infants at high risk of allergy or food intolerance. Feeding with cow milk formula may also provoke allergy in those at risk, even little doses. Allergy can be provoked also after diarrhea. Formula intolerance. Researchers report that although published estimates of formula intolerance range from 2 to 15%, 33 to 50% of infants undergo formula change during the first 6 months of life. This raises concerns that formula switching can have detrimental effects on the parent-child dynamic. Instead of switching formulas where there is no medical indication, focus on helping families build skill in coping with uncomfortable babies. So here's the flip side of what I said before with the formula, wanting to maintain. It's a catch-22 because WIC is giving them these expensive formulas for free, and then the baby is used to that formula, and then the family runs out, and it's like, well, what do? You have to buy that expensive formula or go to a less expensive formula, which it may not be compatible with the baby, which is why I said tell your families to talk to their healthcare provider about switching to a comparable infant formula. A lot of the stores like Target, Costco, and Sam's Club, like Walmart, they make comparable formulas, but you still want to talk with your healthcare provider before switching. This is a really, really big issue with WIC families, and I wish that they would do better in explaining to WIC families the difference or the similarities in formula, and that the babies, they don't have to have like the brand name with all the fancy ingredients. It's not necessary, especially if they are low income and their income is stretched. Paying $30, $40 for a little tin of formula that only has 16 servings, like that's really not sustainable, and family cannot do that. So I really wish that WIC would do a better job with dealing with the gap in formula. Help parents be aware of the gap between marketing claims and health claims. The infant formula industry is adept at making marketing claims that appear to imply that formula is just as good or even better than human milk. FDA announced on June 9, 2004 that it is finalizing a rule that sets standards for manufacturers on infant formula. Under the final rule, standards include current good manufacturing practices specifically designed for infant formula, including required testing for the harmful pathogens, disease-causing bacteria, Salmonella, and Chronobacter. A requirement that manufacturers demonstrate that the infant formulas they produce support normal physical growth. A requirement that infant formulas be tested for nutrient content in the final product stage before entering the market, and at the end of the product's shelf life. Hierarchy of infant feeding choices for the term baby. Mother at baby's breast, mother's own express milk, milk from Hambana or state licensed milk bank, cow milk formula, soy formula, re-emerging concerns about estrogenic effects. Yeah, a lot of estrogen in soy formula. And what are the effects on the baby? Yeah. Homemade formulas, animal milks, or plant milks are not appropriate for human babies. For example, babies fed goat milk may suffer from electrolyte imbalances, metabolic acidosis, folate deficiency, and specific and nonspecific antigenicity. Scurvy is a new and severe complication of improper use of almond drinks in the first year. How much milk do we make? How much milk do we make? Expectation is 750 to 1,000 milliliters per day, but a mother of twins made 2,355 milliliters in 24 hours, and more recently, 4,170 milliliters in 24 hours. Growth in the breastfed baby. Until fall 2000, NCHS growth charts on babies' weight gain patterns were based on growth of babies from 1929 to 1978 without reference to how they were fed. Newer NCHS data included some breastfed infants. WHO study released in 2006 makes exclusively breastfed babies the growth standard. In 2010, the CDC recommended that the WHO growth standards be used for all children under 24 months. The 2012 AAP statement agrees. Why such a difference in weight gain patterns? The weight gain pattern of populations of formula-fed babies after 2 months may be due to hyperinsulinemia. Production of insulin that does not move glucose into the cells. Receptor sites on cells seem to be blocked by fat, so the function of insulin to move glucose out of the blood and into the cells can't occur efficiently. Excess insulin in the blood is used to make and lay down fat. Cells send out repeat signals to secrete more insulin because of lack of glucose in cells. Breastfeeding is a significant protective factor against obesity in children. Gut microbiota may play a part in childhood obesity. Breastfed babies have a unique profile. Breastfeeding is one of the strategies of the CDC's obesity prevention plan for childhood, along with a diet rich in fruits and vegetables, increased physical activity. Contraindications to breastfeeding or the feeding of breast milk. Breastfeeding and feeding breast milk are not advisable if an infant has been diagnosed with galactosemia. Galactosemia can be rapidly fatal if lactose is not completely removed from the infant's diet. Breastfeeding or feeding breast milk is also not advisable if mother is infected with HIV. Note, recommendations about breastfeeding and HIV may be different in other countries. Mother is infected with human T-cell lymphotrophic virus type 1 or type 2, HTLV 1 or 2. Mother is using an illicit street drug such as PCP or cocaine. Exception: narcotic-dependent mothers who are enrolled in a supervised methadone program and have a negative screening for HIV infection and other illicit drugs can breastfeed. Mother has suspected or confirmed Ebola virus. Mothers should temporarily not breastfeed and should not feed expressed breast milk to their infants if mother is infected with untreated brucellosis, mother is taking certain medications, the mother is undergoing diagnostic imaging with radiopharmaceuticals. Mother may be able to resume breastfeeding after consulting with the physician to determine when their breast milk is safe for their infant. These mothers should be provided with lactation support to learn how to maintain milk production and feed their infants with pasteurized donor human milk or formula while temporarily not breastfeeding. Mother has an active herpes simplex virus infection with lesions present on the breast. No, mothers can breastfeed directly from the unaffected breast if lesions on the affected breast are covered completely to avoid transmission. Mothers should temporarily not breastfeed but can feed expressed breast milk if mother has untreated active tuberculosis. Note, the mother may resume breastfeeding once she has been treated appropriately for 2 weeks and is documented to be no longer contagious. Airborne and contact precautions may require temporary separation of the mother and infant, during which time expressed breast milk should be given to the infant by another care provider. Mothers should be able to resume breastfeeding after consulting with a physician to determine when there is no longer a risk of spreading infection. These mothers should be provided with lactation support to learn how to maintain milk production while not breastfeeding and or while expressing their milk. Mother has active varicella chickenpox infection that developed within the 5 days prior to delivery to the 2 days following delivery. Always research contraindications. Don't go by memory or feelings or information you got on a blog or listserv on the internet. Drugs, diseases, and conditions, radiation therapy, and diagnostics. So, stay current via journals, continuing ed, notes taken at a conference. Notes taken at a conference will not stand up to legal scrutiny. Use up-to-date references and resources. LACMED, drug hotlines, medications and mother's milk, infant risk center, etc. Then consider the implications and provide support for the family. And that is the end of the notes for 2B. Thanks for listening.